Hello and welcome back to the shop. As you can see, my shop has clearly changed since the last video. The lighting is very improved, the ventilation system much better, and the sky is literally the limit. So this is definitely not a step down from the previous shop space that I was renting, and definitely not a driveway that a family member is letting me borrow. This is good. This is all shop space. So in this video, we are going to be talking about this. This is my 2007 Dodge Ram pickup truck. It is the 2500. It has the 5.7 liter Hemi V8 gasser, and she was cheap, real cheap. Now I've been keeping my eyes open for a cheap pickup truck for a while, just kind of casually looking here and there, trying to find something that was in my budget, which was very modest, we'll say, and eventually this came up, and I was able to get it for very cheap within my budget because it has some mechanical issues. When I first started it up, before I bought it, it had a really loud clattering noise, and instantly in my head I was like, that's probably rod knock. I mean, there's a chance it could be caused by other things around the vehicle, sometimes lifter tick in the top end. That's a common issue with these 5.7 Hemis. Not exactly from this year, this is a 2007. Most of those lifter issues were from 2009 and later, but it could still happen on these older engines. But I kind of went into this expecting to have rod knock and have to deal with fixing that. So I was able to factor that into the price, get the truck. It was cheap, and I got it a little bit cheaper because of that work, and because the seller knew that that was a very concerning noise. So they weren't gonna find too many people who are willing to deal with that. So today in this video, we're going to be dealing with a cheap truck that has most likely rod knock, but we may get lucky and it may be something else that's easier to fix. If not, I'm fully prepared to pull this engine out, do a teardown on it, and show you kind of all the steps that I went through, because this seems like a really daunting job, even for someone who's worked on cars before, knows about cars. So this is going to be new for me, and hopefully I can share this with you in case you need to work on an engine that has rod knock, or you're working on one of these old Dodge Ram trucks, trying to keep it running and keep the cheap truck alive. So yeah, let's start it up, and you guys can hear the noise that I'm talking about. Now you hush. Alright, so we're idling at like 900 RPM. We've got, you can see we've got oil pressure, looks good. Excuse the air conditioner. More of like a lower clunk noise than it is like a high-pitched ticking noise. Something else we can do is look at it from below. Kind of walk around and see roughly what area it's coming from. Seems louder from like the bottom of the engine compared to the top. On the top it's going to be a little confusing because we've got, you know, all the pulleys spinning, we've got the fan going. Something else we can do is see if it changes with RPM. So if we rev it just a little bit, kind of goes away for a second, and then it definitely comes back at idle. So that's the sound we're dealing with. These 5.7 Hemis, and even the other like 6.4 and even like the 6.2 Hellcat engines to some degree. They can have lifter issues. So Hemi lifter tick is a common thing you'll hear people talk about online. And basically it comes down to low oil pressure at idle. So it's not low enough that it sets off the low oil pressure light, but it is low enough that it's kind of starving the top end of oil. So if you sit there and you idle a lot, which these engines were in tons of service vehicles, ambulances, like utility trucks, fleet trucks, police vehicles, so they spend a lot of time just sitting in one place idling, and they're just running the top end with very little oil. There's like, you know, only 4 pounds of oil pressure at idle. So that's why these have lifter issues, and why they often will need camshafts replaced, is because they don't have enough oil pressure. When we take this engine out, I'm going to tear it apart. We're going to investigate everything that's wrong with it. There's a chance we could have some lifter issues, but to me, that sounds a lot like rod knock. It sounds like it's from the bottom of the engine. That sounds like textbook rod knock. Before we start taking the engine out, I want to do a compression test on it, just so we can crank it while it's in the vehicle and get kind of a baseline. See if there's any obviously dead cylinders. That'll help us when we do the engine teardown. We know kind of what the pistons were doing, how they were sealing, and that'll factor into kind of what we need to do as part of the engine rebuild, if we can just replace those rod bearings that we're knocking, or if we also need to look at, you know, increasing the cylinder pressures and the compression, like if we need new pistons, new piston rings, stuff like that. So to do a compression test, we just want to disable the fuel so it's not trying to squirt fuel into the cylinders and trying to fire off while the tester is in there. It's a 2007 2500. So the fuel pump relay is like built into this box, and there might be a way to like jumper it and bypass it, but generally, like, I can't just pull a fuse or pull a relay. So I'm just gonna go down to the fuel tank and try to just disconnect the connector for the fuel pump. Instead of dealing with the fuel tank and trying to reach up on top, that is way too difficult. Since I gotta be here and get to all the coil packs anyway, I'm just gonna unplug the injectors, and that will keep fuel from going in because they have no power, they can't spray fuel. So we'll have fuel pressure, but it shouldn't matter because it has nowhere to go, because the injectors aren't going to be firing while we're cranking. This red part right here, I want to try and pull that this way carefully. So we're going to push that in, and that came out easier than the first one, but yeah. So you just pull that red piece out first to release the tab, and you can push the tab in and pull the whole connector off. Well, while I'm on this side, I'm also going to disconnect all the coil packs. These also have a black tab, but you can just pinch them. You have to pinch it like towards the front where this step up is, or you can use a screwdriver to try and push it in. Alright, so coil packs and injectors are all unplugged on this side. I'm going to try and take off this part of the intake. I think it's just 2 bolts. One there and one there. Got one connector here. Alright. All 4 coil packs are unplugged. All 4 injector lines are also out. So now we got to get the coil packs, take them off. These have 2 plugs, or 2 spark plugs per cylinder. So for our compression test, we take out just one. So if we take out both, the compressor tester is going to go in one, and the other one's just going to be blowing straight out. So make sure you leave one in there. I ran into some trouble yesterday with the spark plugs. These back ones that are right next to the brake booster are super hard to get to, and my straight magnet was too long to fit and get the spark plug out, get my socket out. So all that stuff got stuck. So I went to AutoZone and got one of these flexible magnets. Made sure this was still small enough to fit down the spark plug hole. So now I can kind of contort this to go back in here. and try to recover all my stuff. You can like lift it just enough with the magnet to get it back out. So save yourself the trouble and the extra run to the parts store. Get a crazy magnet like this first. I mean, it was cheap, but it's one of those things you need it before you start, not right when you're in the middle of it. Spark plugs don't look terrible. These kind of look like maybe factory plugs, possibly changed ones, but generally they all look about the same amount of wear, about the same amount of dirty, slightly carbony on the armature. So overall, not terrible. Here are the results of our compression test. So cylinder 1 is kind of on the driver's side on the front. So I just went down the rows. So we got pretty good, 180, 180, 175, 190, fairly consistent. On this side we got 175, 178, 145, and 178. So this one is a bit low. It should still fire, it should still make combustion. The manual for these engines, the 5.7 Hemis, they don't specify like an exact pressure that you have to meet. It just says, hey, whatever pressure it is, make sure it doesn't vary between, 40 psi between your lowest and your highest. So our highest is technically like 190, our lowest is 145. So that's about 45 psi difference between the lowest and the highest compression readings. So it's a little worn out. For the most part, this engine is still relatively fine. You could run it for plenty more years. But either way, we're gonna take it out and tear it down, try and investigate that rod knock. So this is just useful for the future, but it seems like we don't have any obvious signs of like a broken piston or a like a super bad head gasket or something. So maybe cylinder 6, we'll have to pay attention to that when we tear it all apart, see what that looks like on the inside. Nothing too serious, nothing too concerning, so let's continue with pulling this engine out. I'm going to disconnect the battery cables, not that I really need to, but just in case, I'm just going to disconnect it. I shouldn't have to take it out, because I think I can get to everything I need to. So we're just going to leave that in there. Underneath the vehicle, we are going to disconnect our exhaust flanges on both sides. They are 13 millimeters. Next up, we're going to drain all the coolant. So on the kind of towards the driver's side, you've got your drain valve up here on this side of the radiator, and then we've got our lower radiator hose right there. That's a tiny bit lower, so that'll still hold some coolant. So at some point when we disconnect that, we'll have to just remember that, and it'll dump a little bit more coolant, but we should be able to get most of it from the radiator. So I'm gonna drain that right now. You can also kind of just reach down from the front and turn it. It's down there somewhere. You just kind of reach your arm up through this gap. So that's going to take a while to drain. Alright, I'm going to get the overflow bottle and the windshield washer fluid reservoir out of the way. It's the same bottle. It's got 2 chambers. 10mm bolt. We've got 2 connectors on the back. There's another bolt on this side. Pulled the hose off, so now we're going to drain the washer fluid. Once that's all empty, I can dump out the coolant overflow into the coolant drain pan, so all the coolant's in one place. Alright, I'm going to work on taking the heater core hoses off. Alright. The hoses are stuck. You can kind of grab the hose and then just try and twist it until it starts spinning. And then once it starts spinning, you can pull it off by hand. Definitely make sure the drain pan is still under there. Alright, next thing I'm going to try and undo the fan so I can slide the fan back, get the shroud wiggled around it and get the shroud out. I have to get the fan off first. And of course they're super tight and the socket doesn't fit. These are 13mm bolts. Alright, now I'm going to do the shroud bolts. Wiggle. Yeah, the bottom just has some tabs that kind of keep it from falling, but there's only 2 bolts up here at the top. Actually, hold it. This is your air conditioning. This is your transmission cooler. This is your power steering cooler. And both of these are mounted like to the radiator. I don't think I need to bring these out because I don't want to like drain all that stuff right now. So I'm going to disconnect them and try to just like bungee strap them to the bumper or something so they don't fall. Might be easier to loosen the radiator first so you can like tip it back and then get to everything. Next up, I'm gonna take off the serpentine belt. So for this, you just take your 3/8 socket wrench, put it in the square hole, and then you want to pull it towards the top of the engine so we can get it loose, and we'll just start taking stuff off. Alright, next up we're gonna be dropping the oil from the engine. So drain bolt is 13mm. Ooh, it's on here real tight. Alright, we got her loose. I think this drain pan will be enough, but might be famous last words. I'm gonna go get the other drain pan just in case. Yep, this one's filling up pretty fast. Might have to do a Chinese fire drill. And 3, 2, 1. Set it down before it gets too heavy. I think this one's like a 5 quart, this one's like a 4 quart. So I don't remember the oil capacity. It's, I don't know, maybe around 10 quarts or something. Hopefully this one doesn't fill up. Alright, back on top of the engine, we are going to remove the oil filter. Let's call it the oil pan. So normally you'd probably want to get to this from the bottom, but since we're removing the engine, I can just kind of reach through where the radiator used to be. And we kind of have like a little bit of a funnel from the factory. There's like a bracket underneath. I've also got this funnel just in case to try and get the oil to go in the pan and not in the environment. So let's see if we can... Oh, no. This one's going to be on here super tight too. I can just tell. Alright, I'm going to need to try an oil filter wrench. Oh, I think it's starting to go. Ah, jeez. Try to aim for the drain pan. Oh, there she goes. We got like a little bit of golden flakies. Goldish, bronzish. It's probably gonna be hard to tell on camera, but nothing immediately concerning. No chunks of bearing material or anything. At least not in the... came out the oil pan. Back up here on top of the engine, I'm going to disconnect the fuel rails that are on both sides of the intake manifold. I'm going to bleed the pressure. There is a little Schrader valve, kind of looks like a bike tire, underneath that black cap that's on the one side, and then the actual connection for the fuel, I think it's that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so go on down to AutoZone, get you this part number, fuel line and AC disconnect tool. They got a couple different styles. I went with the one where it's this like black holder with the little blue pucks on it. So they got the different sizes. That one was the 3/8, or at least the 3/8 worked. Kind of see how that works. So you fit it over the line. It holds the jaws that are inside the big fitting. It holds it open so it can slide past like the flared end, kind of in the middle. You see the shiny part and then the big. That's what you have to get these over. So make sure you get a short one because there's not a whole lot of space to get that on there. I'm gonna start kind of maybe working on some electrical stuff. Just trying to like pop these connectors off because I think trying to take the entire harness with the engine is maybe gonna be real difficult. I don't know if I can unplug everything. I think I'm just gonna pull the harness off the engine. Because mainly we got like the 3 sensors down below. We've got the injectors and the coil packs all up here on top. We got throttle position. We got stuff up here for like the alternator, some other sensors in front, and then we can kind of try and lay it back or something. Alright, I am a big dummy. I'm gonna show this on the internet, so hopefully someone else doesn't do what I do. For the air conditioning compressor, there's a bolt here. There's a bolt here on the other side. You can see I've been trying to like pry it up already. But there's another sneaky little bolt right down there. It's kind of in front of this fuel injector. It's right there. I kind of cracked my housing by prying on it. So, because the alternator was kind of the same way. I thought it was just stuck on there, so I started prying on it. And yeah, this side did some damage, so don't do that, kids. Remember to take all the bolts off and you'll have a much happier day. Okay, one last thing with the AC compressor. I'm trying to just leave all the hoses attached. If you pull it as far as you can, this is how far you get. So this hose is bent really sharp. I'm basically kinking the rubber part over here. So yeah, there's basically no way to take the engine out and leave the AC hoses attached. I thought there'd be enough space, and maybe in some other vehicles there is enough space, but at least in the Ram 2500, the hoses just aren't long enough. So be smart before you take the engine out. drive to a shop that can suck out all the refrigerant. Do that first. They'll probably do it for free or do it for cheap, so then they get free refrigerant they can use to charge someone else's vehicle. So do that first, and then you can just pull these two hoses off, put the two hoses out of the way, and save yourself the headache of trying to deal with bleeding it or refilling it or, you know, stretching the hoses. Okay, for this little sensor down here, this style has like a red tab, so you have to like pull it sideways. The big end has a little ridge, so it's gonna go this way. Then you can just kind of squeeze on the tab here, pull it out. And that's how those connectors work. With the AC compressor off, there is one final sensor up here that's kind of keeping this whole half of the loom from coming apart. So we just got that connector. So I don't know what that does. I'm just gonna label it, say it's the thing that's behind the water pump. And then this half should be good to come off. And then this half, the only thing holding it, there's a ground strap that's kind of back here next to the dipstick and behind the power steering pump. So I'll have to wait to get that. But I'm gonna label this and then we'll keep disassembling to make access. I'm gonna make some more room. I'm gonna remove this front radiator support crossmember thing. So we've got, I think these are 13 millimeters, just 4 bolts. And then we've got the AC condenser. We've got a 10 mil and a 10 mil. And then we'll just kind of rest the AC condenser somewhere. This is a 15. Okay, for this next part, I'm going to try and take off the water pump section of the housing that's also got the radiator fan. So I'm just looking for all these bolts kind of around the edge that bolt this shinier aluminum piece kind of to this backing piece. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 over here by the thermostat, and then underneath it 5. And then above power steering, we got 6, 7, kind of goes down. We got an 8th one right above the main crank pulley. And then underneath this idler, we have 9, and then 10. And then we're back where we started. So we've got 10 bolts kind of scattered around. They should all be, yep, they're all 13. So I'm gonna try and get to those with sockets and wrenches, and then hopefully this big thing will be out of our way. Alright, now that they're all loose, I'm gonna go around and start taking them out. And I'll label them in case they're different lengths. So we'll go backwards, so that's 1. We'll go backwards to 9. Alright, so we've got 1 bolt here that can't be removed because it hits the power steering pulley. There's not enough room to get it out. My goal is to get the power steering pump out of the way. For power steering, there's 1 bolt here, and there's 2 bolts on the bottom side. You have to go through the holes that are in the pulley itself. Take the bolt, drop it on the ground. Okay. Power steering pump. I'm gonna set that there for a second. Fairly secure. Go up to a point up here somewhere. And that should be good. We're away from the engine. Don't think we'll be hitting anything. We're not leaking, so that is good. Alright, with our power steering pump off in the corner, we have, should be just 1 bolt holding this water pump housing on. So I'm going to very gently try to pry it away. Try not to break anything. You can see it moving ever so slightly. So again, trying to be gentle. This is aluminum, it's cast, it will just crack. So you gotta be careful with it. Looks like this bolt above the bottom idler pulley goes through into the back housing. So I'm going to take that out. You can also take off the bottom idler pulley. I think our steel has just corroded to our aluminum. Yeah, and I'm not gonna try and force that. So hopefully we can get this bolt out around it. If we try prying again. Oh yeah. Try and loosen this a little more. So maybe we don't have to take it out. We can just kind of loosen it back here. Maybe? Okay, so that bolt is out now. Now we're only held on by this one bolt. It's heavy. Alright, back under the truck. We're kind of looking towards the rear. We come up, we've got our transmission pan. Got our transmission, our bell housing. So we've got this bracing kind of U-shaped plate that goes between the engine and the transmission. So this plate we're going to take out. So we got these bolts. These are 15, maybe 14. 15 definitely fits. So we'll take those out. These are the lines for the transmission cooler. So these kind of just, there's like a little holder bracket up there. So we'll just take that off so that the engine isn't attached to these lines. We should be able to kind of just disconnect the hanger, and then they can just kind of sit here out of the way while we pull the engine up and away from it. After we took that plate off, we can see the flex plate, so we'll take off the torque converter bolts. We'll have to spin the engine over from the front crank pulley, but we can get to that now. Next up, we're going to do the starter. So we've got 15mm bolts holding it to the transmission. Alright, we got the starter down. I'm going to try and take this off, just disconnect it. It's one 13mm bolt. There's one. A little spade connector. Little flathead screwdriver help. And the starter's out. I'm tired. Okay, while I'm still down here, pardon the light flashing, wow, shitty flashlight. I'm going to unplug that sensor. I don't see any other sensors down here on this side. And over here, we've already got our transmission cooler lines disconnected from the engine. And we've got a sensor there, and another one there. We're back to electrical stuff. So we got a ground strap wire right here. That's behind the power steering where that was. It's going to be a 15mm. Alright. We pulled up our branch that goes down to the starter. And I'm back behind the fuel rail. There is a zip tie kind of back there. It's just holding the loom to the back of the manifold. And it really does not want to come out. Alright, it's just really long, so you gotta work out all the threads. Because they're plastic, so they kind of just bend, but you might be better off just trying to tie this up to the side. Somehow. On the side, same story, we can kind of just lift it up, shove it back in the corner. I'm going to work on taking the intake manifold off, so it's going to be a bunch of 8mm bolts. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This see if there's a fifth one. Yep, there's a fifth one way at the back. These are captured, so when you loosen them, they won't come out all the way, but they'll definitely, you'll feel them that they're not in anymore. Okay. Yeah, the zip tie for the harness on this side is not the firewall. It looked like the firewall, but it's actually on the back of the manifold. So we'll just gotta be aggressive with it and pull. Now that the intake manifold is off, might be a good time to come through with a vacuum and just clean up any broken plastic bits from the wiring harness, any bits of dead bugs or leaves or anything else, so it doesn't fall into your intake runners. I mean, we're going to take it all apart and clean it anyway, but on the back you can see there's a ground strap. There's one on this head. It runs across to the other head, kind of up there on top. Those are 13mm bolts, I believe. And then the one on this side has a second strap that runs down to inside of our transmission tunnel. So I think we're going to need to use those bolts to attach the hoist, just because there's not a whole lot of good places to attach the hoist to in the back of the engine. So yeah, I'm going to take off those two grounding straps. You can see our wiring harness is kind of just ratchet strapped out of the way. We're going to undo those two, and then I think we might be done disconnecting things. Next up, we are going to disconnect the engine from the torque converter. So we need to be able to turn the engine over to get to the bolts. So up top here is a 21mm socket, and the engine normally rotates clockwise, looking at it. So we're going to hop underneath, undo a bolt, come up here, rotate it. I think there's only 4 bolts, so you just rotate it, 90 degrees roughly to get the next bolt to show up. Right now we're just worried about this torque converter. So we got 1 bolt there, 1 bolt there. These are going to be 14mm, and you're going to want to use a short socket to get up here. There's a bit of a cutout in the oil pan, but it's not quite long enough to use a long, like a deep well socket. So you'll just have to use a short one. So now we need to put a jack underneath the transmission, because the only thing holding the transmission in is the engine and the engine mounts, and then the transmission crossmember is way back here behind the oil pan. So if we were to disconnect the engine, the whole transmission would kind of just droop because there's nothing holding up the front end. So we're just going to get a real basic jack, nothing super fancy. Going to get a 2x4, put it, I don't know, somewhere here-ish. Oh no. My little jack is too little. It's not big enough. What do you know? Alright. Alright, I'm gonna go get a bigger jack. I think that should be fine. I don't think it's going anywhere. All it has to do is keep it from drooping down due to its own weight. To disconnect our transmission, let me try and show you what I'm talking about here. It's really tight quarters. Okay, so there is 1 bolt on each side that's kind of here going into the transmission, and then there's 2 more above it on each side that are on the transmission side going into the engine block. The other one you can see is there above it, and then the other one is even higher up, but I think we can get to that from the top of the engine. And then the engine mounts are going to be here. There's a through bolt I'll go up to the top side and show you what that looks like. But so there's one end. The other end up top, pardon the harsh shadows and such, is right here. So you can see it's kind of just a U shape. The top is open. So I think we can just loosen those bolts. We don't have to take them out completely. We can just loosen them, and then when we lift up, it'll just kind of come out of the slot. So there's that one on that side. It's the same thing on the other side. It's just going to be harder to see because it's got the transmission cooler lines kind of running near it. But yeah, so we got the transmission supported. I think now we need to get our engine supported with the hoist so we can start loosening bolts and maybe start trying to pull this thing out today. Well, with my engine hoist on the farthest setting, I am still not quite able to get directly over the engine because we are hitting our bumper. So I was hoping we could just get away without taking the bumper off, but it's pretty simple. So I'm just gonna take it off and we'll get, you know, probably a good, I don't know, 6 more inches of room. And that should be plenty to get above the middle of the engine for when we go to lift it. So the bumper is held on with 2 bolts on this side that just go through the frame rail, 2 bolts on this side. Those are going to be 19mm socket, and then we have 1 connector because this truck has the fog lights. I don't know if they all do, but the connector is down here under the driver's side of the truck. So over here we can see our connector. It's this red plug style, so we'll just get it, kind of pull that red tab out of the way, then we should be able to just unplug it. So you undo the 2 nuts, pull it out. It's kind of tight, like it squeezes the frame, so you just kind of lift it and shimmy it a little bit. And then this gap right here, kind of in between this fin and this flat part, that kind of just fits around your wheel well liner. But yeah, to keep it from tipping over, I kind of just fed a ratchet strap down in front of the box of the frame and hooked it like here. So this actually worked out super well. It's not very tippy at all. So just a single ratchet strap, or if you got a couple friends, you can have them come over and hold it for you. But if you're like me and you're working alone and you're pulling the engine anyway, you better have one of these. Alright, here is the situation I have come up with. So right now I have chain going through this long bolt into the corner of the head. Same on that side. On the back side, we have the 2 threaded holes in the cylinder head where the grounding straps used to be with those really short bolts. I went out and got longer bolts, so we have a lot more thread engagement. And then I went to Home Depot last night, and they sell chain by the foot if you want. So I got, I think this is 5/16 by 1 inch chain lengths. It's rated for 1,900 pounds. They have bigger, they have smaller. I think that rating is plenty fine, and it fits around the bolts pretty good. It's not going to come off, like I don't need a bunch of big washers. And also we're at really steep angles, so we're going to need more lifting power because of how trigonometry works. If you want to learn why, you can go watch someone else's video about rigging and why your lines, if they're at an angle, they're actually under more tension than if you were just pulling straight up. But the 5.7 Hemi weighs 485 pounds, according to the internet. I don't know if that includes the water pump cover, if that includes the alternator and the AC compressor, or if it's just kind of like this, where it's the block with the heads on it, and also the, you know, exhaust manifolds. But I think this should be fine, even at this kind of steep angle, because we have really no other choice. It's like up here with our hoist, like this cardboard hangs down a little bit, but you know, we basically have to be lifting the engine right now. And these are starting to get under tension, so I think we're okay. I had to like turn the hook sideways. Normally it's got like 3 lengths of chain and then the hook, and we just can't do that with this tight space run. Yeah, so now that the weight is supported, we're going to start loosening the bolts that are holding it in. The top 2 I got from up here, then the next 2 I got from below. Those are 14 millimeters. And then the last one holding the transmission to the engine is a 16. There's 2 of them, 1 on each side at like the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock position. And then up here, our motor mounts, our through bolts, these are 19 millimeter socket. So I'm going to loosen these, take up tension on this, and then go undo the last 2 bolts on the transmission. Alright, with all the bolts out, I'm just taking a pry bar and gently prying the engine and the transmission apart. Make sure you do it on the edge, not the middle. That thin metal plate that's between them will bend and warp. It's not structural, so don't do that. But we can't just pull it straight off because it's still on those like press fit dowel pins. So it's only like a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch, so it's not much, but you do have to pop it off before the engine can be truly free of the transmission. Now that our engine is on the engine hoist, I took out those 2 plugs for the water pump. They're just paper towels, and then I kind of picked up the back end to tip it forward and look at all that coolant that was still in there. But now we're going to take out the flex plate bolts so we can try to get this on an engine stand. Alright, these are going to be 17 millimeter. Those are off. Okay, in order to get the engine off the hoist onto the engine stand, I'm going to be using the bolt holes where it bolted up to the transmission. So I went to Ace Hardware and I got, these are M10 1.5 thread and 100 millimeters long. And we need longer bolts than the transmission ones because at least my stand has these long kind of legs for mounting, so I needed enough length to go all the way through and then into, we've got 4 threaded holes to choose from, and then we've got some through bolts down here. So I also picked up some bolts in case I want to bolt through there. And then this is too small to fit, so I also make sure to get some nice big washers so this doesn't just fall out through there. It was like $15 of hardware. Basically this is going to be holding up the engine while we work on it, so I went and I got like grade 10 bolts, hopefully something strong enough to have the entire engine just hanging off the edge of it. Alright, now that the engine is out of the truck, for me this was a lot of work. I kind of picked at it, you know, about 4 hours a day for like 4 days. I took a rest day somewhere in there because I was just so tired from kneeling and laying across the top of the engine, doing basically push-ups, trying to get everything out. So you can do this by yourself, absolutely. You just need the right tools, you need a little bit of creativity, and just a willingness to sweat, because man, it is July when I'm doing this. I'm in the Midwest and it's been like 90 degrees every day. So make sure you don't hurt yourself working too hard out in the heat. Take your time, You're probably not going to be able to do this in a weekend unless you're hitting it with a bunch of friends and you're trying to do like 12-hour days, but this is a lot of work. It's not super complicated. It's just, where's that bolt? How do I get to it? Okay, which socket size is it? If I can do it, you can. I'm not special. I taught myself how to work on cars from watching YouTube videos like this one, and just slowly working my way up to it. So this is not the first time I've worked on cars, but this is kind of the biggest job I've done so far. In the next video, I'm going to be tearing this down, fixing the rod knock, looking for any other issues that this engine has, and then we will be rebuilding it, putting it back in this truck. My goal is to fix this so I never have to do this process again, because man, this is a lot of work. So if you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, please leave a like, leave a comment down below. I can try to answer some questions if you guys weren't able to get what you needed to out of this video. Make sure you subscribe to see the teardown on this engine. I'm about to go in that garage right there and start taking it apart. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you for spending the time watching this video. I do hope you found it useful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Oh my goodness. My knees. Oh.